People Analytics. I'm very happy to have all of you. My name is Nicolas Bevani. I'm People Analytics Leader, LinkedIn Top Voice, and very glad to host this amazing LinkedIn Live every Friday with all of you. It's a true pleasure to welcome all of you to this exciting session. We'll deep dive into thought-provoking discussion, share insight, go to the thought-provoking discussion. We build a stronger community together. We'll be 1 hour together. It's a lunchtime here in Europe, the perfect moment to take a break and discuss during 1 hour about future of work. My guest today is Robin Wenninger. He's the founder of Global Institute of Leadership and Technology, where he work is focused on making real change happen inside the organization. He helped reshape how we think about leadership and progress in today's complex work. Robin, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Very happy to be here. It's a hot Friday afternoon in Europe, so probably most people will go with a light lunch. So I guess we need to be a little bit more in depth on the topic, right? So light food and meaningful conversations.
Thank you so much to being with us. I have also with me George Kemish, HR strategist, thought leader, semi-retired, I can say, shaping the future of work. He's with me every Friday. I have a pleasure to have him and consultant in Middle East company. Good afternoon, George. How are you? Is it hot as well in UK?
It's about, I don't know what it's here. I think we're only going to be 24 degrees today, so it should be a bit cooler. It was 34 at the beginning of the week, so
Very good.
yeah, a little bit
Welcome,
easier.
George. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. So, thank you, both of you, to be with me. Before we begin, let's get a sense of our incredible audience that we have today. Where are you joining from today? So, me, I'm in Paris, based in Paris. We have Robin in Germany, of course, George in UK. You know that. So, put your location in the comments so that we can see, a sense of our incredible audience so that we can discuss in the large audience. Today topic is about unlocking teams progress, the skills needed to thrive in uncertainty. There is a space for learning, so if you have any question, you can jump, and ask your question in the chat, and we will discuss about uncertainty. Today, we are diving into what it really means to thrive in these uncertain times, not just survive, right? Central of this resilience is skills, not just technical ones, but the human and adaptive skills that power team progress when the road ahead is unclear. Robin, how do you see leadership shifting in response to this growing uncertainty? And what skills do you believe organization often overlook?
Okay, so yeah, opening the box immediately. So I guess we have more than 1 hour time now with just this one question. No, it's a wonderful question, and I think one of those questions that we quite often expect to have like a very simple, straight answer. And I wish I could now say like, hey, these are the 5 skills, these are the 8 skills, these are the 20 skills. But the more we're starting to discuss on that, we will always find one more, one more, one more. And we can start an endless discussion on what kind of skills are actually the right ones. So I think we will discuss this a little bit more nuanced in just a second. I'll probably just like starting with this leadership perspective, which I believe is quite important here, and where I think there's quite some change happening as well. So uncertainty, you mentioned the terminology already here, is probably something that we all start to feel all the time now. There's a lot of things happening in the world. I remember when I went to business school, we were still learning like 5 years plans, 10 years plans, 15 years plans, 30-year vision. I guess when you are doing this today, you probably get like or if you would teach something like that in a classroom nowadays, people would look at you and say like, how the hell should we try to predict 30 years? And even if you're looking at from the year 2025, 30 years back, look at what kind of world we have been, right? So like a LinkedIn life wouldn't be possible back then. And we're talking here less than 3 decades. So the change that happened in the world is massive. The change that we will see is fundamentally at a high speed, and that creates this level of uncertainty. If you just look into Europe pre-pandemic, everything felt like a nice little heaven, and nothing was really a challenge. At least it didn't feel like that. And then we started with the pandemic, and since then it feels like things are more fragile, things are more ambiguous, and this uncertainty makes life much harder.
Yeah.
Then technology comes in, brings a lot of new facets to that. The cool kid in town, right? AI or large language models right now feels like they are changing dramatically everything on not a annual basis, not a monthly basis, but a weekly basis. If you just follow the news, and
Yeah.
I think to a degree the world has some kind of stability yet, but it doesn't really feel like that as there's so much change going on, and we are not really prepared for that. We're trained, and this is then leading to this whole question of the skills. We're trained to produce answers to questions, not necessarily finding out what might be a potential answer to a question that we're not really sure if the question even is right or wrong. So what I mean by that is, like, from an educational perspective, we're trained to have one specific question, to that there's one specific answer out there. So that's how we're trained. And now we are living in a world where we have probably more than just one question, and we don't know which one is the right one. Plus, there is to each of those questions multiple potential answers, of which most can be right or wrong. So it becomes all a little bit more ambiguous, and that creates, like, ultimately this uncertainty. And that's why I definitely believe that from a skill perspective, coming back to this point, is we need to leave a little bit this perception of who is an expert and what is an expert behind, and focus much more. And this would be three skills that I definitely would see here. The ability to go into a dialogue. So instead of, Nicholas, you have all the answers and I come to you and you give me always the answers because you're the subject matter expert, that I can have a more meaningful dialogue with you and figure it out together with you, leading then to some kind of a collaboration that ultimately, our best case, leads to co-creation of something new. So I think the new expert will be also someone that will comfortably say, I have no idea, but give me a couple of hours and I will figure it out, or give me a week and I come back with an answer. So I think we need to be much more humble with that, and then also at the same time much broader in the topics that we're covering.
Amazing. Absolutely. Thank you for, highlighting these uncertainty times that you have highlighted. And it's a good, transition to the skills and what we called the lot of trend about SPO. I have already shared a lot of, research about SPO, about skills-based organization, that a lot of, consulting firm are saying that it could be the powerful, way that we can have organization can have business value on that. But we have also seen about skills-powered organization. That, as you see, one research that I have shared is increased productivity, employee engagement, improved profitability, and all is the return on ROI is a lot. It's amazing that 600% higher productivity, 60% of ENPS, 40% of profitability. All of this is, again, on the paper, great. But what is your thought about, do organization needs really to become skills power organization, skills build organization? Is it really needed, and how to become one of them?
Yeah, wonderful question. I think also there, you're probably even much more aware of all the research going on in this field compared to my current knowledge base on the research and also on the scientific side of things. But I think there's a couple of topics, or like bigger, also like sentiments within career paths and workforce expectations that probably point towards that skill-based organizations are a good thing. One being, I think it's like pretty natural, and if you check out a couple of profiles on LinkedIn, so you see much more people changing roles way more often. Not necessarily switching the organization, but within an existing organization. So you have like way more diverse profile. And I think it's wonderful that people have these opportunities nowadays, right? To say, hey, I'm probably starting my career in, I don't know, finance, and then I move on to marketing, and then I end up in HR, and from HR I go to sales and marketing, whatever. So you're building like your own repertoire of skills by having like these different roles. And I think like if you also look at the expectations, especially from younger generations, they want to have also like this change in roles. And it resonates also directly with what I just mentioned with the perception of experts. Whilst we used to be training for this super specific expertise knowledge over 20 years, 25 years, this is not necessarily needed anymore. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. Don't get me wrong here, please. But I think the need for that is much lower, and people are enjoying way more to have different tasks and different jobs that they can try out also to a degree throughout their career. And I would also argue, if you're looking at like workplace happiness and workplace satisfaction, which are all pointing in quite the wrong direction, if you ask me, then I think we need to consider how we can, on the one hand side, make work meaningful, but also provide a workspace that creates some happiness and satisfaction for the people that are actually fulfilling their role, because they're ultimately spending quite a lot of time within the organization. I think like skill-based work and skill-based organizations, and then like a high level or high degree on task orientation can provide actually this. And also like from practice, we see this happening so often. You go into organizations, they're running certain projects, they get a lot of external people in because they don't believe they have the skills internally, and then like two hallways down the corridor, you find this one person saying like, hey, this project would be so cool because I've done this 5 years ago, and it would be so cool to contribute my skills to that, and we have not this awareness of that. So I think like organizing workforce also by skills and being capable, and this is like also like on this slide, by the way, this speed and agility, right? That I know, hey, I have this project that is coming up. These are the skills that I require in order to succeed with this project the best way possible. And I know where these people are within the organizations, that I can bring them into these projects makes a lot of sense. And let's also be honest there, like the majority of things we are running within organization are now project based. So like this typical line work is still there, but it's decreasing. And we see also an uptake with technology there, that more and more of like this traditional repetitive line work that is organized in departments is getting automized. So we have actually also the capacity within the workforce to be more dynamic in terms of staffing to projects and working more task-based rather than role-based. And I think it makes a lot of sense, because why not? Why shouldn't you utilize the skills to the best degree, or give people the opportunity to discover something new that they might enjoy more than what they're currently doing? I think that's much better. And then also people can probably see the bigger picture, how their work actually contributes to the overall development of the organization. So the slide that you're showing here and what Mercer did here with the research probably shows pretty impressively that it is a good thing from a pure return on investment perspective. But I would even argue that the more option your organization provides to its workforce, the happier and the more satisfied people will be. And most likely, and I think that's much better as well, it's much better if they are switching tasks within the organization, so that you're not losing the talent to another organization just because someone gets bored, because they're not satisfied, or they're not enjoying the job they're having, because they can't bring their skills to the table.
Wonderful. Yeah, very important, insight that you have shared, availability of the talent. They need, organization to know what is the talent inside their organization instead of going, outside. Availability of the skills, and to know, George, I know that you have, shared a lot of, comments inside about organization needs to know what is the skills inside the organization every time available. So this is something that, and you said, the assess of the skills inside organization is very important.
I think something that Robin was talking about earlier, which was moving people around in the organization. is actually a good idea. And the reason I say that is because whenever change is made in one area, you can almost guarantee it's going to have a knock-on effect in another area. So if people understand not only the job that they're doing now, but also the job other people are doing, then they will understand how those changes can come about. So I think what Robin said there is really important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robin, for this, insight. I would like, to discuss about manager impact on stress and well-being. Another research that I'm sharing, I would like, your thoughts about that. Is data is powerful. We know managers don't just drive performance, but they buffer uncertainty. And this point is very important because we know that organization needs to equip leaders not only to be strategy but also empathy, right? So about these slides that I'm just sharing, that manager play a critical role in moderating stress and uncertainty, and we see that there is a huge impact for the strong manager support about uncertainty, well-being, about reduction of the stress. It doesn't mean that manager are not stressed. Maybe they keep the stress at their level. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting from many perspectives. So first of all, I think we need to appreciate the fact that uncertainty, even though we are saying it's the time that we're living in and it's the default option that is presented to us in today's world, we need to also appreciate the fact that uncertainty is nothing that we particularly enjoy as human beings by default. So uncertainty will always lead to some kind of a degree to stress. And then it's just a question, first of all, what's the degree of uncertainty that you're experiencing, and what's the consequences of this uncertainty on your personal life, right? So just because something is uncertain doesn't necessarily mean that it is impacting you that much, right? So there's a lot of like future scenarios that are good or very bad that you can anticipate, but even though a bad scenario might occur, it doesn't necessarily need to be bad for you as an individual. The change in perspective there is, I think, also important. But I think we need to understand that if this level of uncertainty might be, and I'm just like drawing now this everybody favorite discussion point at the moment, right? AI replacing many people in the workforce. We can talk about this in a second, but just as an example, right? If I'm like having 15 options from LinkedIn recruiters in my mailbox saying like, hey, Robin, would you like to work for my company? Then probably being replaced by technology, I take a little bit more relaxed and said, like, yeah, if they kick me out, then I just call one of those other 15 and then we're okay. But if you don't have these options, if you don't have these escape routes out of this uncertainty, and you might be perceiving that, saying like, hey, I might be at risk of being replaced by the organization. I know if I lose my job, I can't afford my life anymore. I can't pay my rent, my house, my food, my lifestyle, whatever. And then this uncertainty level obviously creates more stress and makes life much, much harder. So coming to this leadership perspective there, I think we never want to have stress. We know not only from organizational design and not only from leadership, but like stress is nothing good for people. It's necessary for survival and it has its role. So it's also nothing that we want to get rid completely of, but we want to manage stress levels in a healthy mind. And we know also that if our workforce is healthy and if they can perform the best, then ultimately the results will be better. So there should be an interest for any leader and any person in an organization to ensure that people are performing at their best, because that's when you get the best results, the best output, and then hopefully also the highest positive impact for your organization development. So what I want to say here is two things. I think we need to have a more individual take on stress and understand who is stressed because of what kind of a degree from uncertainty, but we can't eliminate stress due to uncertainty because it's it's directly related unless someone figures out how to change this biological reaction in us human beings. So I think we need to accept this fact, but then we need to see like what can we actually do to that? How can we address this? So sticking with this example of people saying, "Hey, I'm scared that artificial intelligence is going to replace me and I have no more job." This, I think, is something that we can mitigate quite easily by just providing simple things as training, portraying people how their roles are unfolding, what other opportunities are existing, what is happening within the organization. Because every organization is constantly developing and evolving. Think about like all these jobs that we have created over the last, let's say, 20, 25 years that are just related to the internet economy, how often these roles have changed. And someone that did like online marketing like 20 years ago, this role in this particular form is not existing anymore and was deeply requiring this particular person or this particular role to evolve, to build up on new skills, to change the way they work. And this happens to every other role within organizations. And I would even argue that the more you're working with humans, the less likely it's going to happen fast. But the less you're working with humans, the faster it might be happening that your role will change over the next couple of probably years, months or weeks. I'm not trying to make any predictions on technology anymore because that always turned out to be a bad bet. So I would stick with it will happen. Every role will evolve, and I think at least I can't think of any role within any organization that is not subject to change. If you find one, I would be like really curious about it, and I probably would apply for that. But so far, I think it's this evolution is part of that, and that's where we really need these leaders that are first of all aware of the stress within the organization and how people are potentially suffering from that, and then mitigating that and trying to help overcome this by addressing these points. And for me, honestly, the best way to do that is to have clear, transparent communication of what is actually happening, what is being discussed. And if it's being discussed in the boardroom that a particular team is going to be replaced by technology and being kicked out, we have the story, I think, later a little bit from other companies, then we should openly communicate this to the people and say like, hey, look, your job is not going to exist in 12 months, whatever, 60 months. But here's an offer that you can stay and find something relevant there, because there's always something there.
No, very, very relevant, very absolutely relevant, and thank you for highlighting this bad stress. We can say that, as you said very rightly about replacement, to fear of replacement, but we see that we have also the good stress as well, also known as eustress. So this good stress is about productive stress. What is organization can foster this productive stress, also to re-engage employees with this stress. Stress is not always negative. Yes, some majority of the case is negative, but we have also the stress that is positive as well. Sometimes I like to be stressed sometimes, in order, to produce my best level of, a presentation, for example, or to be a speaker. So we have good and also bad stress, as you brilliantly explained during that. And another point I would like to discuss with you is about the fact that the view of the skills, as you said, about the replacement of the job is something that is stressful with AI, as you rightly said, and the specialization gap is how employees view skills is going a lot of time, bigger and bigger. As shown in this research, we see that, for example, there is 40% of gaps between what specialists learning, specialists think, and what employees thinks about skills, etc. And certainly with maybe they are disagree with the skills that they need, and maybe it's AI. What is your thoughts about this skills gap that employees think about?
Yeah, brilliant question. That I think, I think we framed the whole topic wrongly, to be honest. And what I mean by that is the following: we have this tendency to put some kind of like judgment on skills. And then at the same time, we have not really a good, at least for me, no really good, clear taxonomy on what a skill actually is. Because you can always ask, is this a skill? Is this a competence? Is this a set of skills? So like breaking things down, right? Because then it gets a little bit absurd to a degree for me. So I think like one leg we are having there is definition and taxonomy.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, which I think is even more critical to address and that we should definitely fix in these discussions, is that it feels like some skills are good and some skills are bad. Some skills are more relevant, some skills are less relevant. You can probably cluster this to a degree, but I think in general, there's no such thing as a bad skill. It just enriches it. And if you probably talk with our friends that are doing neuroscience and everything around that is connected to the brain, they would already all agree that no matter what you are learning or no matter what kind of skills you're capable to execute, it has a positive impact on who you are as a human being and what you are capable to do. And I think it's really, really important that we're getting to this point of not saying like there is any bad skill or there's any particular good skill. Their skills are probably more useful at a certain development stage. We can do that, but I think we need to have a more meaningful discussion on that and also get the ambiguity out of the skill discussion, because I personally don't see it here. And the slide that you're showing here, I think is already demonstrating exactly that, right? Because there's like this gap in the perception of that.
Yeah.
But then also if you look into something like leadership skills,
Yeah.
So I can't like name any skill on this planet and you can say this is relevant for leadership, right? Same with critical thinking skills or collaboration skills. It's like really, really hard to cluster that. But I think what might be relevant here, or that might be more important, especially looking at this gap, is as an individual, I think it's really hard to grasp what you should train on and how you should develop depending on your role, your career path, and also like what you want to achieve for you personally. That's another topic, by the way, like career passes. Why is the only way up? That's another topic that we can't cover here. But I think what's really requiring, or what we really require here, to close this gap in the perception of skills is really, first of all, people, and I'm now looking here at HR, that are capable to create development plans for individuals that they can actually strive and follow. And then also leaders within the teams that highlight things that are good and bad. Now looking here at feedback. Feedback culture on that, and I think is really, really important. And I would agree, and Nicholas, I would be like really interested also on your take on this one now. But I would argue that if you would ask anyone and say like, hey, what are the 5 most critical skills to train as a salesperson in the year 2025? The answer we would give today will be completely different compared to the answer we would give in 6 or 12 months. And this dynamic in skills, and if we look into skill maps from the last 5 years, right, it's like there's certain skills that are, I know this is first place, second place, third place, whatever, they're there, but it's like so dynamic and there's so much change there that I think we really need to leave a little bit like the theory behind and focus more on the individual and having like these dialogue cultures around what do you actually want to achieve as an individual? Where do you want to develop yourself? Where do you see your own strengths and weaknesses? By the way, this is also something that has an awareness problem. What are individual strengths and weaknesses? Depends again on feedback that we're giving way too little. And also like not being capable to unnecessarily receive the feedback in a way that it becomes actionable. So it stays quite often superficial. So I think we need to also there have a way more personalized and individualized process, which, by the way, would be for me again, let's use technology to replace all this boring line work that we're doing, especially also in HR. And HR has a lot of like repetitive, boring jobs, at least from my perspective. Let's put it all into technology and use the time that we're recovering to really work with human beings again in the organization. Make sure that they get the training and the awareness of where they are and where they need to go, and make sure that they're having a good time working for the organization.
Wonderful, insight, Robin. Thank you for sharing. My take is that, as you said very rightly, there is no bad skills. Absolutely, we didn't think about. I'm learning like in this, lunch and learn session. There is not a bad skills. You are absolutely right. All the skills are good. As we are learning, of course, those that we are learning, everything is good. It depends on, as you very rightly said, it depends on the moment that we need to use these skills. As you said, it's the change that we are, assisting, and that's why, I would like, and there's a good transition between what you are saying about before, about the skills, about the gap skills, and also what is core skills needed for the future. As you said, is changing every time. We see some skills is growing, some skills are becoming less important. It doesn't mean that is absolutely not relevant. It's becoming less. It's not about just technical skills, and very important is about resilience, curiosity, creative thinking that is climbing the reskilling chart. As you see the top, analytical skills, creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility. This is the one that was shared in this research is becoming more and more relevant in the coming years for everyone. As you said, it's not really becoming engineering, salesperson, because I think, as you rightly pointed out, is about AI is coming in their area. AI will take a lot of technical skills, repetitive skills, and automation as well. So what we need is about empathy. As you know, AI will not do any empathetic task, any empathetic, skills. And what we have is empathy skills, is the way that we are, learning from each other and how we, react of that. So leadership skills is really important. So you agree about, this fact that the future, what would be, important, because the core skills is important. Why? What we are doing today as a work, but as a candidate as well, because companies are also maybe, and not maybe, for sure, they are looking at these skills, analytical, creative thinking, resilience, etc., to select their future talent. Do you agree with this point?
Yes and no. So I like a lot of those things. I want to just like do a little detour on one of those skill development topics, and then go straight into what you just asked. So I think if you just look into this chart that we have right now, right, and just like picking a couple of like analytical skill, creative thinking, motivation, and self-awareness, just to pick like three that are a little bit more on the soft side of things, if we want to call it like that. What I would advocate for is, and I think this is the large scale problem that we're encountering with learning and development and upskilling and reskilling, is that we are failing people not in the organizations necessarily. We're failing already in the school system in most cases, because like analytical thinking should be something that, let's assume you're doing your 10 years of school or whatever, you should be quite good with that if you would follow a proper educational system. Fact being is that in many cases, especially in Europe, and where I'm most aware of that is that our education systems are at a limit in terms of like capacity, in terms of skilled workforce, but even in terms of infrastructure and everything like that. So I think it's to a degree also very hard for organizations to fix everything that we have basically ruled before. And like one of my favorite quotes on that end is like, hey, we're sending young people through an education system, and then they spend 5 years at university paying a ton of money for their education, and then they start working, and we need to train them how to work. So And this is a little bit ironic, and I don't want to be totally negative here. Don't get me wrong, but I think we should also advocate that the times that we're living in require a different approach to education much earlier on than just when you're starting your professional career, or when you're already in your professional career, expecting that everything is going there. How we're changing that, I'm not an expert on, and I have no clue on how a better school system could look like. I have some ideas, but they're not foundational. The only observation that I have here is that I think we need to be much better in a much earlier stage of the development of people, to gain more of this this upside, the skill upside in the end, right? All skills will be trained like your lifelong, right? Everything is lifelong. Analytical skills will be developing over time, but I think they should be also trained much earlier. Nicholas, I give you the word. Yeah.
Robin, what you are saying is very interesting. You mean that universities, our universities in Europe, needs to take account the result of such findings and put it in their programs of education in order to train the all the students about what is needed for your future, that when they will come to the university of work, they will be ready with this critical thinking, analytical thinking, system thinking, etc. To be ready. What you are saying, there is a gap between our universities and the world of work, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we see quite often happening. Also, I think there's a big gap between high school, or whatever kind of school you have, to university. And I think like we really need to rethink the way we're doing education in digital age fundamentally. So not only from the software perspective, but look into the way we're using media, right? The way we're using information, the way we're communicating. So there's a lot of challenges there, and I think to be better off as society, it helps us to update these systems more frequently, right? And like the same applies there. Like the school system needs to also go with the time. The university system needs to go with the time. So look at all these discussions that we're having at universities on how AI should be used within the university landscape. I personally have a really clear take on that, because I'm happy that I did all my university stuff pre-AI, because now with these tools, at least that's what I'm always telling to the students that are running in my courses. I was like, look, it's not that your tasks get easier or quicker. The only thing that happened is that my expectation to the output you're producing got higher, because I know you have all these tools that will support you with writing. Just think about how much time we were spending pre-AI times on just the actual skill of writing, which you now can argue is probably not the most important part anymore, or doing something like literature reviews or literature research, working on your methodology. Like, you can review thousands of scientific papers in an accurate quality within 50 minutes nowadays, which used to take like 6 weeks. So obviously you have more time to produce more meaningful results. And then instead of appreciating that and building up on that, what we're thinking about is going back to pen and paper based assignments at university, so that the tools can't be used. And then you're hitting reality, which every organization tells you, hey, we need people that are AI literate, that can use these tools, that are capable to use large language models, and also understand how their tasks can be facilitated with more technology. So we're creating, just because we want to protect a legacy system because it's convenient for the system, that doesn't make sense. We need to leave this convenience behind. So that, okay, we need to update the systems in order to keep up with what reality looks at us. Another example, I think that's wonderful on that end, is like recruiting. You mentioned that already to a degree, right? So you want to map all these skills and hire for skills and everything. But we have now recruiting processes since 2-3 years where the one that is applying for a job uses a large language model to write all their applications, and a large organization using some kind of like keyword mapper to do the filtering. So the first round of application and interview is completely machine driven without any human being involved. So we can probably skip this part. And then the next thing is, and that's like then the irony, and for me it's like a fascinating thought experiment, because I don't have like an easy answer to that. If you're thinking about this recruiting process, right? And so like, hey, on the one hand side, you want to have someone that is really human, that is like empathetic, that has a personality, but then also at the same time want to have someone that is super AI literate and can use all these tools. So, and you have now two candidates, like one candidate with an application that is picture perfect, and you obviously know that has been generated and been worked out with the help and support of AI tools. And then on the other hand, you have another application that's like super authentic, has a couple of errors in there, right? Probably also a typo, where you obviously see that this is human made, and just like oversimplifying now, right? Whom are you going to recruit? It's a difficult question. And so I think we need to also there start to rethink a lot of things, which directly goes to these skills, right? What is the actual skills required in order to hire the right people in the future? What are the right skills to develop a human being in the organization? So it changes everywhere. And I think that's the difficult part that creates also like this uncertainty in every role that we're seeing, that we discussed in the beginning. So I think we need to really be aware of that. Everything is changing right now, and what the outcome will be and the way we're going to work with that will be, at least for the moment, a really human decision by design. But it is questionable how long this will be only that, right? It might be that we will see technologically different processes taking over there, which is good and bad. At the same time, it's neutral, right? It doesn't have a soul. We just need to be aware of that.
Amazing insight, Robin. And I would like to continue this conversation about what you just said about the fact that it's going so fast, and this picture, this research is showing that if skills have a half-life of just 2.5 years, then job description aren't enough. We must rethink, as you said, rethink how we recognize, how we track, and we grow our talent. And so the question, Robin, for me is, what does a skills-powered culture looks like in the practice? Based upon 2.5 years is not a lot.
Yeah. So, like, everybody's darling here is probably the right answer, which is everything around related to lifelong learning and being aware of the changes that are happening, and looking into certain things. But this answer would be a little bit superficial now. So I want to probably give it a little bit more of a unique perspective that I believe makes sense on that end. So one, and I think this is a really often overlooked topic now, is organizations quite often at least act in a way that it feels that they have no skills inside, or no knowledge inside. And what I mean by that is that organizations tend to outsource learning to other organizations, including ours. So we're happy that this is happening. For us as a business, it's good, right? But I'm always like telling to all our clients is like, really make sure that before you're just getting only external people in, that you have an awareness of the people within your organization that probably can facilitate also such a training. I think that one wonderful approach is, and this is something that we do super regularly, is like implement a Friday learning in every team, right? So if you're a team of, like, let's say you're a team of 10, right? Everybody gets like one Friday where they need to present something, where they need to share skill or share some knowledge that they have, and it doesn't need to be necessarily work related, right? Just like say like, hey, Nicholas, next Friday you have just 45 minutes, present anything that you think is valuable for all of us, right? And if you're teaching us how to play the trumpet, then we spend 45 minutes onto that, again relating to this philosophy of there are no bad skills. So, and what it does is, first of all, you have every Friday you learn something, and you train, I think, something really important, which is teaching. So the person delivering something on this Friday, first of all, gets a chance to teach something, and by teaching, they become better with what they're doing. It might be also that you're deciding not to teach something that you're particularly good at right now, but probably something that you're just interested or that you find valuable for the people within your team, so that you are dedicating some time throughout this week to learn out of that, right? So, and in this way, at least you have every Friday a touch point. It can be also every Monday, right? It doesn't matter. So I think this is something that can be really easily implemented to, first of all, source more knowledge and skills from within the organization that is already there. And it doesn't cost anything apart from the time that you're spending on the preparation and the actual time that you're spending together. And it doesn't need to be 45 minutes. Could be also like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever the time is to develop onto that. So this unlocks, on the one hand side, the teaching for the one that is delivering that. And you get, like, if you're a team of 10, right? So you get more or less 5 chances to teach something in a calendar year. And then the second thing that happens is it also opens, and this would be like one of those, if you would ask me, like, what are the skills that I deeply believe in make a lot of sense, then you're also learning to be curious, right? So if you're telling me, hey, next Friday you get a master class on how to play the trumpet, and I've never done something around it, I'm probably not that orientated on music, and this is nothing that I deal a lot with, I probably learned something new. And I might figure out that actually playing the trumpet is my hidden lifelong passion that I've never discovered before.
Yeah.
Because also there, from a learning perspective, like finding your passion topic is a little bit like playing the roulette, right? If you're happening to be exposed to that because someone exposes you to that, then you find it. But if you're never getting exposed to something that you're actually deeply passionate about, and we see these stories all the time, right? People saying in their late 40s or 50s, oh, now I did this and I want to do this the rest of my life. So exposure to things that you're normally not exposed to might even unlock something that you're not aware of, that you're actually liking that. So curiosity, I think, is like really something important. And then the other thing, and this is the second skill that I deeply believe in, is everything related to kindness, right? Being kind to each other in the team. So first of all, I'm interested in what you're doing, so that makes our social relationship probably also more relevant, more interesting, and more profound. But then also I can support you, right? Because maybe if I have something that is super valuable for you, you probably get into that. And kindness for me is like not like this being nice kind of thingy, right? It's more like this being really clear on what we want to achieve as a team together. And for me, kindness is also important from another perspective, directly related to tech. When it comes to technology, we are expecting people to adapt it, right? So here's a computer, you know how to use it. Think about how many people are in an active workforce that never got a formal computer training, that never got a training on how to use email properly, on how to use Microsoft Word. Like, if you think about all the features Microsoft Word or Excel or whatever other kind of everyday office program is offering, the majority of people, I would argue, and I have no statistics on that and no research numbers, but I would say 99% of the people using less than 1% of the features available in these tools, because they never discovered the rest, because they never really got into these trainings, because we're just expecting people of that, right? And now coming back to kindness, with AI, stuff like that, people are starting to be scared to ask for help because they feel that they already missed out. And we need to be kind, right? We need to be saying like, hey, no problem. Right, like, Nicholas, you have no idea about how to use this. That is no problem, but you need to fix that, right? This is kindness. It's like being clear of what the expectation is, but also at the same time being supportive. Saying like, hey, this is how we can help you achieve that. So learning together, sourcing the skills internally, being curious about topics, and being kind to each other, I think is really, really important to look at exactly what you're seeing there. Because if you're following this logic of saying like a half-life of 2.5 years, that means you have a ton to learn. And if you have a ton to learn, the likelihood of that you are missing out on something is quite high. So you need a supportive environment that, first of all, presents these things to you, and then secondly, doesn't judge if you're not having these skills just yet, but then also at the same time setting the standard of saying like, but you need to have it. So let's work on that.
Brilliant insights, Robin. I really hope that those attending, this session will, listen to your recommendation. And very important that one point that is, impacting, the cost is about it doesn't cost anything. The example that you brilliantly expose is that it doesn't cost anything. It's just, you need, to the way of thinking should be changed, and all the human skills that you have, enumerate is very, very important. And thank you for highlighting that. Robin, I would like to go to the next chapter of the of every week that we are doing. We are also learning, each week with my guest. I'm learning from you all. Is about the HR news of this week. I would like to bring to your attention about one news that was shared, this week. The fact that AI outperforming doctors to the major workforce shift. We are seeing disruption across sectors, right? So skills intelligence is going back, and what is important, we are discussing about, about human skills, about, empathy, as you said, about, being kind. And now we are seeing that AI is going outperforming humans, not in this, area about skills of human area, but about technical skills. So they are doing better than doctor. In the future, we'll maybe not go to our doctors, maybe, and maybe go to what this company is claiming that AI diagnostic tool. Do you believe that, really? First of all,
So I would say I hope so, and I believe so as well, and I think it's good news for everybody, because like if you're like just like thinking about Germany, George, I'm thinking it's similar in the UK. I'm not sure how it's in France, but if I want to have like a specialized treatment in Germany, then I need to wait 9 months. So probably if AI can help us with that, and there's like a lot of cases. So I'm not too familiar with like all the health system, even though we're working with a lot of like healthcare companies, and I have family members that are doctors. But like the operational layer of like hospitals and clinics and everything like that is not so much that I'm too familiar with. But I would argue that if we can reduce the threshold that is on current doctors, and they can really focus on helping people and healing people and making sure that they're not getting sick in the first place, then this is probably a good thing. And I deeply believe, and the statement doesn't apply to doctors, but technology should always enhance what we are capable to do as human beings, and that for me is a positive claim. So I definitely see this as something nice. What I But this is media, right? So I'm not the biggest fan of like this saying like outperforms or like is better than. Um, it will be, at least from my perspective, the strongest will be the dance and the collaboration between humans and machines to do all these kind of things. And because like let's be honest, right? If you get your diagnosis from an AI or a doctor, you don't really care about this as long as it's right, and as long as you're getting onto a treatment plan that helps you to recover if that's needed. And yeah, I see like healthcare systems being at the brink of collapsing. So definitely this will be a good thing.
but do you think about the beginning of the discussion about the stress that you mentioned, about the stress to be replaced? Do you think that doctors now can be stressed? As you said, it should be a collaborative help for them in order to diagnostic. I know that the cancer can be diagnosed 4 times more accurately than human. But do you think
Yeah.
that doctors fears about one day? And I know that also in Europe, we have some machines is going, we are, some people are going directly to the machine. They can take their pressure. They can,
Yeah.
diagnose by the. Do you think that they can fears about somehow in one day this AI diagnostic tool will completely replace the doctors,
Mm.
about the stress of fears of
Mm.
replacement?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. It could be a good follow-up lunch and learn at one
Yeah.
point, because it also gets a little bit into like this philosophical aspects of. So if you ask me, I can see a future that is mainly driven by technology and run by technology,
Yeah.
but I think there will be like I think it will be a decision to say like what will we do as humans and what will technology do. And like we know from an engineering perspective, and coming from Germany as an engineering perspective, there's always like this one saying is like, if you can explain it in all details, you can build it. And if we figure everything out, we can probably rebuild everything to a degree in machines. But again, this is a philosophical outlook to say like where are we heading there. If I just look at the discipline of being a doctor right now in Germany, from the doctors that I know, including my cousin, I think she won't be more stressed because of that, because the level of stress she's experiencing from just the work, how it is right now, I think it can only be better, to be honest. But yeah, there will be probably people that will be scared of that. Brings us back to what we mentioned earlier. I think we need a more individual perspective of where human beings are and how they're perceiving things, and then outlining a path forward for what that means for them.
Thank you. Very, very, very relevant point. And now I'm coming back to the end of this, news and topic regarding, replacement of AI. There is the same company is laying off 9,000 employees, will lay off 9,000, roughly 9,000 employees, representing 4% of the workforce, and could be affected by the layoff. Do you think that this technology, these skills, that we are discussing about, the skills that is needed, some of the skills are not needed, and some people have the skills that will be not needed in the future? Of course, you said that very rightly, that all the skills is needed, is good and is positive for the employees. But do you think is a skills issue, or it's a technology issue, that we are going to have technology company are laying employees? What is your opinion about that?
I think all to a degree. I think it's not like pinpointing one particular reason for that. I think all of what you mentioned is probably part of that. Honestly, I haven't looked into this Microsoft layoff in detail, so I can't really comment on this particular case. But as a general statement, I think all you said is completely right. I think one more thing that we need to take into consideration as well, that is often being forgotten. I think it's also an organizational design issue from time to time, and an organization missing out on the future. Because let's be honest, I would argue that all companies that you read in the headlines that are laying off people, if you go onto their career website, they are at least having 100 or 120 open roles, which you could argue like why are not, from this 9,000 people in this case or whatever, why is there not at least these 120 people being trained or educated in the direction? Because I would argue that there's at least one or two people in there that will fulfill this profile, right? So I think organizations are also missing out on that. And we know hiring and firing cultures are okay, but hiring is way more expensive than firing.
Very relevant point. Absolutely brilliant point about that. Now it's time for George's take. And let's spotlight and what George has unpacked from a discussion with Robin. A lot of insight. I was very excited to learn, and I learned a lot from Robin today. What is your take, George?
Well, looking at everything that's been put up on the screen from what Robin said, I mean, there is so much there. There is so much there that will be taken away. If we're talking uncertainty, then what's gone before will only tell you where you are now. It's not going to tell you what's going to happen in the future. To do that, you really need to do something like scenario planning, where you can actually look at the underlying developments, if you like, and put together different scenarios based on where you think the different outcomes are going to come. To do that, curiosity, your people need to be curious. They need to be watching. It's not just the leadership that needs to be watching the external environment. Everybody needs to be doing it, which means everybody has to be included in what's going on. They need to be included in the scenario planning. especially at front line, because they will have more idea of what's going on. They will see more than the leadership will, in my view. So we're looking at curiosity. We're looking at building resilience, flexibility that brings about agility. And all this has a problem as well, and it can have a reflection on stress as well, because when you're doing scenario planning, the one thing that scenario planning is, it's a way of looking at the future through discontinuity, which means you're not looking at the past because you don't know what the future is going to bring. So you don't know how the past is going to affect that. So that in itself can bring about stress, because a lot of managers, they think about discontinuity and they think about disruption. It's the last thing they want. They want to be able to get in there and just get on with it. But unfortunately, when you're looking at a major uncertainty and ambiguity, then everybody has to look and see what's going on and actually have an impact.
We lost George. Maybe a connection issue. Oh, he is back, if I'm not wrong.
Everything that is going on. So that really is everything we've seen today, everything I've heard today is totally relevant to everything that's going on in this world at the moment. Robin, thank you so much for putting forward your ideas on this, because I totally agree with you. Yes. What you said is just absolutely spot on, and I hope that managers will get used to dealing with discontinuity and dealing with disruption, because there's going to be a lot of it in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, George, for this George take. What a discussion, Robin. What a discussion! Ton of insight. I really recommend everyone who join us, to listen again. This session is recorded, of course, in LinkedIn and also in YouTube. Thank you for being part of this LinkedIn Live. Your thoughts, idea made this discussion truly impactful, Robin. Huge thank you of you. Massive thank you for who joined us and who will listen again later. Let's continue this conversation in Lunch and Learn. We'll come back every Friday at 12:30. Or today it was 1 p.m., but every 12:30 with fresh topics, brilliant guests like Robin. If you would like, to be my guest for the following, weeks, you can book a calendar in my calendar and book sometimes. It was really good, valuable insight, as in the comments I see, and great points from Robin. Thank you so much for today's conversation. I will share, a summary of some of the insight of Robin on my Sunday's newsletter, of course. You are always welcome, to come back to this session. Robin, thank you so much, and welcome back, and happy Friday, happy weekend to all. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wishing you the same. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Robin. Have a great one.